So let's talk tea, and yes, I have receipts. I want to talk to you about the suspicious timing between the seizure of Young Thug's property and some payments made to Fani Willis's boyfriend, Nathan Wade. So if you haven't seen my video about the other Young Thug case from last week, it explains the civil forfeiture process. You don't have to go back and watch it, but it might, color in some of the corners for you there on how this process works. But basically, Fulton County, through Fani Willis's office, is trying to seize a bunch of thugs' property, millions of dollars worth of jewelry and property and cash, things like that. It has not been resolved yet, okay? So we know that. We know the timeline is that Thug was arrested in May of 22. And if you'll look at this is the cover page of the complaint. It's a civil action to seize his property. It's filed by the district attorney's office, so filed by Fani Willis's office. And you can see up in the corner that it's stamped July 7th of 2022, okay? So this is when they start the seizure process. Now, at the same time that this Young Thug case is going on, both the criminal case and the seizure of his property, because they said it was ill-gotten gain, basically, from the criminal enterprise. We also know that Fani Willis had impaneled a grand jury to indict the former and future president, okay? That grand jury was impaneled also in May of 22. Now, she, as we all know, had hired her boyfriend to be the lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade, okay? So while she hired him at the end of 21, payments to him in earnest began in 22. So let me give you a little tip if you ever want to look into this stuff yourself, and feel free to look into it anyway if you want to back up what I'm saying. There's something called Fulton County Open Checkbook, which anybody can access. You don't have to be a lawyer. And it shows you all the payments that have been made to different vendors. Nathan Wade was a vendor because he didn't work for the DA's office. He was brought in independently. And that's how he got paid this $700 and something thousand. So go look at all this stuff yourself. Easy to do. So we know from looking at Open Checkbook, and here is a Excel spreadsheet of the download that I got of all the payments made to him. And I am putting all of these receipts up on my website under my blog so you can look at them yourself there too. So what this Excel spreadsheet shows that while he was normally paid out of the general fund, there were 3 payments starting in July of 22 where he was paid out of the seized property fund, okay? July, August, and September. That means that within 8 days of them filing this seizure of Young Thug's property, the way that Nathan Wade was paid, instead of drawing from the general fund, was drawn from the seized property fund, which you are not allowed to do, okay? So we see 3 payments, and then it goes back to paying him through the general fund. So Ashley Merchant, which should surprise nobody, figured this out, all right? And so in March of 2024, Newsweek got a hold of this information. And Newsweek called the Fulton County, of course, to be like, hey, how could you do this? How could you pay him through the seized property fund? You're not allowed to. And Fulton County said, nope, this was just a clerical error, a data entry error, just a mistake. Nothing to see here, move along. And I put a link to that Newsweek article on my blog as well. So I went back and looked, and lo and behold, as of this morning, here's the screenshot. You can see, if you want to pause, down on the bottom, it has today's date this morning. It is still listed as paid from the property seizure fund. So it's interesting, if it was just a clerical error, merely an error and a coincidence, that it's never been corrected in 8 months. And so if you look at this Newsweek article, let's give Fulton County the benefit of the doubt on their credibility for a minute. The chief operations officer for the district attorney's office says, oh no, we could never pay. It's clearly a mistake. We could never pay. We never have that much money to pay out of the fund. It's just a mistake. So I would lean toward giving them some credibility, because I certainly don't do the accounting for the DA's office, until I looked up who the chief operations officer is. Dexter Q. Bond. And so for those of you that have been following along, he is the person that was refusing to provide Ashley Merchant with open records requests. He was violating the rules and not giving her what she was supposed to be given. It ended up in a lawsuit. The judge is going to rule against them. And if you saw Dexter Bond's testimony. It was so bad. It was really just, I had secondhand embarrassment for him. It was so bad. So that's the person that's trying to say, nothing to see here, move along. So I'd love to give them some credibility, but he doesn't have any. So feel free to go look at this stuff on my website. That is some 8 days is a awful big coincidence from when they go after Thug's property to when suddenly there's a clerical error and Nathan Wade is being paid out of that fund instead. So look for yourself on my blog, and let me know your thoughts on this coincidence.